Blake Lively may have believed she could glide through this storm the same way celebrities often do. Flash a few camera-ready smiles, take a handful of perfectly photographed walks, stand beside Ryan Reynolds while he delivers another witty one-liner, and convince everyone that life was carrying on as usual. But the moment reports about contractor claims surfaced publicly, that carefully polished image began showing cracks. And once you start piecing together the sequence of events, the picture becomes far more complicated than it first appears. To understand why people are talking about this now, you have to go back several years. Blake and Ryan weren't simply building a house in Lewisboro, New York. They were creating what many viewed as a dream estate, a sprawling luxury property designed to reflect status, privacy, and long-term permanence. The plans included everything you would expect from a high-profile celebrity compound: extensive grounds, luxury amenities, advanced energy systems, private wooded surroundings, and enough space to resemble a retreat more than a residence. Throughout the approval process, Blake reportedly played a visible role. She appeared before local boards, spoke passionately about preserving the area's character, and presented herself as someone genuinely invested in becoming part of the community. The message was clear. This wasn't a temporary project. It was meant to be their future, their forever home, a place where they could step away from Hollywood noise and establish roots somewhere quieter and more meaningful. Eventually, after years of discussions, reviews, and approvals, the project moved forward. Everything seemed to be progressing toward that vision. Then came the photographs. When aerial images of the property started circulating, many observers were surprised. The estate didn't appear close to completion. It wasn't simply missing decorative details or landscaping. Large portions of the structure looked unfinished. Exposed sections, visible concrete, incomplete exterior elements, and open spaces created the impression of a project that had stalled rather than advanced. For a development associated with two of Hollywood's wealthiest stars, the visuals immediately raised eyebrows. That's when the conversation shifted. Questions began circulating online. What had happened? Why did a project of this scale appear frozen in place? Then reports emerged referencing more than $2 million in contractor-related claims. According to those reports, some parties involved alleged that work had slowed or stopped after payment disputes arose. Suddenly, what looked like an unfinished construction project became something much larger in the public eye. Because here's the reality. Celebrity projects of this magnitude don't usually grind to a halt without a reason, especially when the owners have built reputations around success, influence, and financial strength. Ryan Reynolds has spent years cultivating an image as a savvy entrepreneur. From major business ventures to high-profile investments, his public persona often centers on smart decision-making and commercial success. Blake, meanwhile, has built a lifestyle-focused brand tied to luxury, fashion, and aspirational living. Together, they represent a carefully crafted image of achievement, which is why the contractor reports landed so heavily. And then something else happened that caught people's attention. Around the same period these financial stories gained traction, a different type of narrative began appearing. Headlines started focusing less on business and more on personal strain. Stories described exhaustion, emotional fatigue, growing stress, and speculation about stepping away from public life. Suddenly, discussions weren't centered on construction anymore. They were centered on how overwhelmed Blake and Ryan supposedly felt. To some observers, the timing seemed impossible to ignore. Articles began painting a softer picture. Blake retreating from public attention, spending more time at home, focusing on family life, while Ryan supported her through a difficult period. Other reports emphasized how drained they supposedly felt after months of scrutiny and controversy. Maybe that's entirely genuine. Or maybe people simply noticed how conveniently those stories arrived at the exact moment uncomfortable questions were gaining momentum. Either way, public perception began shifting. Additional reports described a couple no longer appearing as carefree and energetic as before. Stories suggested fewer gatherings, fewer public moments, less of the playful dynamic audiences had grown accustomed to seeing. Whether intentional or not, the message being absorbed by the public was that something had changed. And that's significant because Blake and Ryan didn't just build careers. They built a brand around their relationship. For years, they presented themselves as Hollywood's effortlessly charming power couple. Red carpets, interviews, social media exchanges, everything reinforced that image. Their chemistry became part of their marketability. So when people started noticing fewer shared appearances and a different tone surrounding them, curiosity naturally followed. At the same time, Blake's professional challenges continued generating headlines. The dispute involving Justin Baldoni created months of intense discussion online. And regardless of where people stand on the controversy, sustained public backlash is something the entertainment industry always notices. Studios monitor audience sentiment. Producers pay attention to public reactions. Executives watch closely. Blake lively appeared to believe she could weather this storm the same way celebrities often survive bad headlines, through carefully managed appearances, polished photo opportunities, and the familiar charm of Ryan Reynolds standing beside her making everyone laugh. For a while, that strategy may have seemed effective. But then something happened that shifted the conversation in a way few people expected. The moment reports surfaced about contractor liens connected to their massive property project, the carefully maintained image began showing cracks. And once people started digging deeper, the story became far more complicated than anyone anticipated. To understand why this caught so much attention, you have to look at the project itself. For years, Blake and Ryan invested heavily in creating what was supposed to be a dream estate in Lewisboro, New York. This wasn't simply a large house. It was envisioned as an enormous luxury compound featuring every high-end amenity imaginable: private grounds, advanced energy systems, guest facilities, and enough space to resemble a celebrity retreat hidden from public view. Blake personally appeared before planning officials, presenting herself as someone deeply committed to the local community and its history. She spoke passionately about building a long-term family home and becoming part of the area, rather than simply owning property there. Eventually, after years of approvals, reviews, and planning discussions, the project received the green light. Everything seemed to be moving exactly as intended. But then came the images that caught everyone's attention. Aerial photographs revealed a structure that looked nowhere near completion. This wasn't a case of minor construction delays or cosmetic work remaining unfinished. The property appeared exposed and incomplete, with major sections still lacking the polished appearance people expected from a project of this scale. Suddenly, questions started surfacing. If this estate was such a priority, why did it seem frozen in place? Then another piece of the puzzle emerged. Reports began circulating about more than $2 million in alleged contractor-related debts connected to the project. Claims surfaced suggesting construction activity had slowed dramatically months earlier. Whether entirely accurate or not, the headlines alone changed public perception overnight. People immediately began wondering what could cause a development of this magnitude to lose momentum. Projects backed by major celebrities typically move forward aggressively. So when one appears stalled, observers naturally start looking for explanations. What made the situation even more interesting was the timing. Around the same period these reports gained traction, new stories began appearing that painted a very different picture of Blake and Ryan's lives. Articles suddenly described them as exhausted, emotionally drained, and increasingly disconnected from the spotlight. Some reports even suggested they were considering major lifestyle changes or spending more time away from the United States altogether. For many observers, the coincidence felt impossible to ignore. Financial headlines emerged, and almost immediately narratives about personal struggles began circulating as well. The messaging itself felt noticeably different from what audiences had grown accustomed to. Instead of stories celebrating business success, glamorous events, and celebrity power couple status, readers were suddenly hearing about stress, burnout, and emotional fatigue. Sources described a quieter lifestyle, fewer public gatherings, and a relationship navigating unusual pressure. Whether intentional or not, the shift in tone was dramatic. The image being presented no longer emphasized unstoppable success. It emphasized endurance. That contrast became difficult to overlook because Blake and Ryan spent years cultivating one of Hollywood's most recognizable celebrity brands. Their public image was built around humor, chemistry, and effortless confidence. Every red carpet appearance seemed coordinated. Every interview reinforced the same narrative. They weren't just celebrities, they were a product people admired. So when signs of instability began appearing, the public paid attention. At the same time, Blake's professional challenges continued attracting headlines. The fallout surrounding the Justin Baldoni controversy expanded far beyond what many expected. Regardless of where people stood on the dispute itself, one reality became increasingly clear. Public perception was changing. Online conversations grew louder. Media coverage intensified. And Hollywood has always paid close attention to audience sentiment. Studios monitor public reactions. Producers evaluate risk. Executives notice when controversy continues generating headlines month after month. That's why the combination of events became so fascinating. On one side, there were reports about legal disputes, damaged reputations, and shifting public opinion. On the other, there were questions surrounding an unfinished luxury estate and financial obligations tied to it. Separately, each issue might have attracted limited attention. Together, they created a much larger narrative, one that left people wondering whether the image of total control was beginning to unravel. And perhaps that's what keeps this story alive. Not necessarily any single allegation or headline, but the growing perception that multiple pieces started moving in the wrong direction at the exact same time. When viewed individually, each development can be explained. But when placed side by side, they create a picture that raises even more questions. The deeper people look, the more they wonder whether the story being presented publicly matches what's actually happening behind closed doors. 4 years, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, and that's where things started getting even more interesting. Because the conversation suddenly seemed to shift in a very specific direction. Instead of focusing on principles or public accountability, more and more attention appeared to center around money, legal fees, compensation, recoverable costs, future financial obligations. The language coming from various corners of the dispute started sounding less like a fight for a cause, and more like a battle over who would ultimately foot the bill. That change didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it raised an entirely different set of questions. Why did financial recovery seem to become such a major talking point? Why was there so much emphasis on reimbursement and damages? To many observers, it created the impression that enormous pressure might have been building behind closed doors. The deeper the situation evolved, the more people began wondering whether the real concerns were far bigger than anyone was publicly admitting. Then came another layer of speculation. Reports surfaced suggesting Ryan Reynolds may have played a larger creative role behind the scenes than many originally believed. Around the same time, fresh discussions emerged regarding allegations tied to deleted communications and disputed evidence. Whether accurate or not, the effect was immediate. Suddenly, everything seemed to accelerate. Momentum toward resolution picked up rapidly. What had looked like a lengthy public battle started moving toward an ending much faster than expected. For some people watching from the outside, it felt as though everyone involved had reached the same conclusion at the same time. Continuing the fight publicly might carry risks nobody wanted to take. Whether that perception was fair or not, it became part of the narrative. And once narratives take hold online, they tend to spread quickly. Meanwhile, Blake's public appearances began attracting a different kind of attention. Every outing seemed carefully documented. Every photo opportunity appeared highly polished. Every smile looked designed to send the same message. Everything is fine. Everything is under control. But the more often that message appeared, the more people questioned it. What many noticed immediately was who wasn't always standing beside her. For years, Blake and Ryan built a public image around togetherness. Red carpets, interviews, social media moments, public appearances. Their brand depended heavily on presenting themselves as an inseparable team. Their chemistry became part of their appeal. Their humor became part of their identity. Audiences expected to see them side by side. Lately, however, people have begun dissecting every appearance. When Blake shows up alone, questions follow. When they appear together, some observers claim the dynamic feels different. More deliberate, more controlled, less spontaneous. Whether that's reality or simply public projection is impossible to know. But perception often matters more than facts in celebrity culture. That's one reason speculation surrounding their marriage continues generating headlines. Not because there is concrete evidence of major problems, but because long-time Hollywood watchers recognize familiar patterns. First come stories about stress, then stories about privacy, then reports about focusing on family, then rumors about spending more time elsewhere. It's a formula people have seen repeatedly over the years. Which brings us to the growing discussion about a potential move overseas. On the surface, relocating to the United Kingdom sounds like a lifestyle decision. Fresh start, more privacy, less pressure. But critics argue the narrative serves another purpose as well. It offers a convenient explanation for stepping away from the spotlight. Rather than appearing pushed out by controversy, the story becomes one of choosing peace and protecting family. The problem is that when you examine the logistics, the idea becomes far more complicated. For children, multiple businesses, ongoing professional obligations, legal matters, property investments, international relocation isn't something families of this scale typically decide overnight. That's why some people remain skeptical, believing the relocation rumors emerged at a particularly convenient moment. And then there's the property itself. Because visually, that unfinished estate tells a story all on its own. This wasn't supposed to be just another celebrity home. It represented permanence, stability, legacy, a symbol of long-term success. Blake spoke passionately about the project and what it meant for their future. Yet now, instead of symbolizing achievement, it has become a focal point for criticism and speculation. The contrast is difficult to ignore. The couple who once seemed untouchable suddenly appear vulnerable. Not necessarily financially ruined or professionally finished, but stretched, pressured, managing multiple challenges at once while attempting to maintain the same polished image that made them famous. And Hollywood notices those shifts faster than almost anyone. Because the entertainment industry has always had a ruthless side. One moment you're celebrated as a branding genius. The next, people begin questioning whether you're becoming a liability. Success attracts loyalty. Uncertainty attracts distance. That's why Blake's current situation concerns so many observers. In Hollywood, reputation functions like currency. The moment studios, brands, investors, and producers believe public enthusiasm is fading, everything changes. Opportunities don't disappear overnight. They simply stop arriving as often. Calls become